The message arrived at Earth on a Tuesday morning in the year 2247. It came through every radio telescope, every satellite, every communication device that could receive signals from deep space. The message was simple and clear, translated into every human language automatically by whoever sent it. You are invited to join the Galactic Council. We welcome Earth to the community of intelligent species. Please send representatives to the Summit of Stars. Director Sumen read the message 3 times in her office in Geneva. She was in charge of Earth's Outer System Defense Initiative, a program most people didn't even know existed. She looked at the words on her screen and then did something that would puzzle aliens for the next 2,000 years. She deleted it. Not interested, she said to her assistant. We have more important things to do. The assistant, a young man named Hayon, looked confused. But Director, this is first contact. This is the most important moment in human history. Sumin stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the city sparkled with lights. Above, stars filled the night sky. Do you know what's happening in the asteroid belt right now? She asked. Hayon shook his head. We're building something. Something that will take us 300 years to complete. Something that will keep humanity alive when the real trouble comes. Oh. She turned to face him. These aliens and their council, they're politicians. They argue about borders and trade. They form alliances and break them. We've been listening to their broadcasts for 50 years. We know how their game works. Oh. But shouldn't we at least talk to them? We tried that already, Suman said. 20 years ago, we sent messages. We offered help. We warned them about the patterns we saw in their conflicts. Know what they did? They ignored us. Called us too young, too primitive to understand galactic politics. She sat back down. So now we ignore them back, and we build. 50 years later, another invitation came. Then another 50 years after that. Each time, Earth sent no response. The pattern continued for centuries. Captain Minji was flying her ship near the edge of the Sol system when she saw it. A small metal buoy floating in the darkness, broadcasting a message on repeat. She was part of the Galactic Council's diplomatic corps, sent to investigate why Earth never responded to any contact attempts. This is strange, said Doyen, her tactical officer. He read the message on his screen. It just says no trespassing. We're busy. Leave us alone. Duh. The ship's science officer laughed. That's the most human thing I've ever heard. They're literally telling the entire galaxy to go away. Minji frowned. She had studied Earth's history through the information they could gather. Humans were supposed to be curious, social creatures. They should want to meet other species. Take us closer to their planets, she ordered. Captain, I wouldn't recommend that, Doyen said. We don't know what weapons they have. They're primitives, Minji replied. What could they possibly have that would threaten us? Before Doyen could answer, every alarm on the ship started screaming. Weapons systems locked onto them from 6 different positions. Not primitive weapons. Advanced ones. Very advanced ones. A new message appeared on their screen. This one was from Ambassador Hayon, now an old man serving Earth's diplomatic office. You were warned. Turn around. We will not warn you again. Minji turned the ship around. Her hands were shaking. Back at the council headquarters, she reported what happened. The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. The Valthine ambassador, a tall creature with blue skin, laughed at her report. They pointed weapons at you? How primitive. How barbaric. Korbak's representative, who looked like a floating crystal, agreed. They clearly don't understand civilized behavior. We should leave them alone until they learn some manners. The Threllan delegate, a being made of living metal, nodded. One small planet isn't worth our time. Let them sit in their corner of space and play with their little weapons. The council voted. Earth would be left alone. It was a unanimous decision. No one cared about a single planet that didn't want to join them anyway. Years turned into decades. Decades into centuries. The galaxy moved on without Earth, but things were changing in the council. The 3 major powers, Valthine, Korvax, and Threllan, were growing hostile to each other. Trade disputes became border conflicts. Border conflicts became military incidents. Military incidents became skirmishes. On Earth, now 200 years after the first invitation, Director Sumin's successor watched the galactic news broadcasts. Her name was also Sumin, named after the original director who had started humanity's great project. She called a meeting with her top advisors. "The galaxy is going to war," she told them. "Our predictions were correct. The council is fracturing. Should we warn them?" One advisor asked. Sumin shook her head. "We warned them 200 years ago. They didn't listen. We've warned them 17 more times since then through quiet channels. They deleted every message." She pulled up a hologram showing the construction projects throughout the Sol system. Massive structures orbited Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Even more existed around Jupiter and Saturn. "We're at 60% completion on the defense grid. Another century, and we'll be ready." "Ready for what?" a younger advisor asked. "For whatever comes after they destroy each other," Sumin said quietly. "History shows that when civilizations weaken themselves through stupid wars, something worse always comes to finish the job. We're making sure humanity survives what comes next." In the Valthene Empire, Admiral Jiho prepared his fleet for war. He had been a young officer when his empire first voted to ignore Earth. Now he was old, and he was about to lead millions of ships into the bloodiest conflict the galaxy had ever seen. He thought about Earth sometimes, that strange, silent planet that wanted nothing to do with galactic politics. He wondered if they were smart or just afraid. He would learn the answer soon enough. They all would. The War of Three Suns was about to begin, and after it ended, nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The first shot of the War of Three Suns came from nowhere and everywhere at once. A Valthene trading convoy vanished near the border. The Korvax denied responsibility. The Threllan offered to mediate. Within a week, 3 battle fleets faced each other in empty space. Weapons charged and ready. Admiral Jiho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Executor's Will. He didn't want this war. Nobody really wanted it. But pride and fear were stronger than common sense, and now here they were. "All ships prepare for combat," he ordered. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 2,000 ships from all 3 sides were nothing but debris and dust. It was just the beginning. The war spread like fire across the galaxy. Every star system became a potential battlefield. Every planet a target. The 3 great powers threw everything they had at each other. Fleets numbering in the tens of thousands clashed in the void. Planets were bombarded from orbit. Civilian populations fled in massive refugee convoys. Trying to escape the fighting, Captain Minji, promoted to admiral after her predecessor died in battle, commanded a fleet protecting one such convoy. She had lost count of how many people she had saved. She had also lost count of how many she couldn't save. Doyon was gone. He had sacrificed himself 3 years into the war, staying behind to detonate a damaged ship's reactor and give civilian transports time to escape. Mingi still saw his face sometimes when she closed her eyes. Yuna worked in the science division now, trying to develop new weapons, better shields, anything that might give their side an advantage. But every advantage was matched by the enemy within months. The war became a grinding stalemate of death and destruction. 15 years passed. Entire generations grew up knowing only war. The galaxy's economy collapsed. Trade routes were destroyed. Colonies were abandoned. Species that had existed for millions of years faced extinction. The Council, what was left of it, met in secret on a hidden fortress world. The representatives looked tired and desperate. Their proud empires were shadows of what they once were. "We need to end this," the Valthene ambassador said. His blue skin looked gray now, aged by stress and grief. "We've lost 60% of our fleet. Our economy is in ruins. Our people are starving," the Korvax representative, its crystal body cracked in several places, agreed. "We cannot continue. None of us can win this war. We can only lose it together." The Threllan delegate's metallic form was dented and scarred. "Then we agree on a ceasefire?" They all nodded. The War of Three Suns was over. Not because anyone won, but because everyone had lost. Before the treaty was signed, someone suggested one more thing. We should ask Earth to mediate the peace talks. They've stayed neutral throughout all of this. The idea was discussed for exactly 10 minutes before being rejected. Earth had ignored them for over 2,000 years. Why would they help now? But they sent an invitation anyway, more out of formality than hope. We are ending our war. We request Earth's assistance in mediating a lasting peace treaty. On Earth, Chancellor Hanna read the message to the Global Assembly. The debate was quick. They want our help now? One delegate said, after ignoring everything we tried to tell them for 2,000 years, they made this mess themselves, another added. They wouldn't listen to reason when they were strong. Now they come begging when they're weak. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not get involved. Chancellor Hanna composed the response herself. It was simple. You created this war. You end it. We have our own priorities. The response hurt more than any weapon. The galaxy's greatest powers, humbled and broken, had been rejected by the one planet they had always dismissed as irrelevant. The peace treaty was signed without mediators. It was a fragile peace, built on exhaustion rather than understanding. All three empires agreed to borders and trade restrictions. They agreed to limit their militaries. They agreed to never fight each other again, but they were weak now. Their fleets were small. Their economies were struggling. They had spent everything on 15 years of mutual destruction. Admiral Jiho, now retired, watched the peace celebrations from his home on a Valthian colony world. He felt no joy. They had survived, but barely. It would take centuries to rebuild what they had destroyed in just 15 years. He thought about Earth again. That silent world that had watched the whole galaxy tear itself apart and done nothing to help. Part of him hated them for it. Part of him wondered if they had been right to stay away. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, the construction projects continued. Massive shipyards floated in space, building vessels the size of cities. Weapons platforms surrounded every planet. Defense stations dotted the asteroid belt like stars. Director Suman, the fourth person to hold that title and that name, reviewed the progress reports. We're at 85% completion, she told her staff. Another 50 years and the defense grid will be fully operational. Do you really think something's coming? Her assistant asked. The war is over. The galaxy is at peace. Sumin pulled up a holographic display. It showed energy readings from deep space, far beyond the edge of the galaxy. Strange readings. Unusual readings. Readings that had been getting stronger for the past decade. Peace built on weakness never lasts, she said. And we've been detecting something out there. Something big. Something moving toward the galaxy from the void between galaxies. What is it? We don't know yet, but we're going to be ready when it arrives. In the council chambers, Yuna had been promoted to chief science advisor. She spent her days helping the weakened empires rebuild their technology and infrastructure. One night, while reviewing deep space scans, she noticed something odd. Energy signatures. Coming from outside the galaxy? Moving closer, she ran the calculations 3 times, hoping she was wrong. She wasn't. We need to call an emergency meeting, she told Admiral Minji. The council gathered again, sooner than anyone expected. Yuna presented her findings. On the holographic display, 2,000 points of light moved through the void, heading straight for their galaxy.
What are they?
Someone asked. Ships, Yuna said quietly. Very large ships. Larger than anything we've ever built. And there are 2,000 of them. The chamber fell silent. Every representative understood what this meant. After 15 years of war, after destroying their own strength, fighting each other, something else was coming. Something they had no power to stop. We need to prepare our defenses, the Valthian ambassador said. What defenses? The Korvax representative replied bitterly. We just finished destroying them all, fighting each other. Admiral Minji stood up. There is one power we haven't asked for help. Everyone knew who she meant. Earth, the planet that had ignored them for 2,000 years. The planet that had refused to help mediate their peace. The planet that had watched them destroy each other and done nothing. They won't help us, someone said. Why would they? Because Minji said slowly, Whatever is coming won't stop with us. It will come for them too. The message was sent. A simple plea. Unknown hostile force approaching. 2,000 ships. Request assistance. Please respond. For 2 days, there was silence. Then, 3 words appeared on every screen in the council chambers. We're already here. Commander Tai Yang had been monitoring deep space for 30 years. He had seen comets, rogue planets, and strange energy phenomena. But he had never seen anything like this. The sensors showed them clearly now. 2,000 massive vessels, each one bigger than the largest space station ever built by any known species. They moved in perfect formation through the empty void between galaxies, heading straight for the Council's territory. Can we communicate with them? Tai Yang asked his team. They tried every frequency, every language, every method of communication known to science. The ships didn't respond. They just kept coming, steady and unstoppable. Like a storm rolling across an ocean, the Council scrambled to organize a defense. The Valthene, Korvax, and Threlin pooled their remaining military forces. After the war, their combined fleet numbered about 800 ships. Before the war, each empire alone had commanded fleets 3 times that size. Admiral Jiho came out of retirement to lead the defense fleet. He knew it was hopeless, but someone had to try. He stood on a new flagship, the Dawn's Last Hope, and watched as his modest fleet formed up in defensive positions. All ships, this is Admiral Jiho. We don't know who these people are or what they want, but we're going to show them that this galaxy doesn't surrender easily. He paused, remembering all the years of war, all the pointless death. Today we fight together, not as Valthene, Korvax, or Threlin, but as one people defending our home. The alien fleet they started calling them the Void Collective arrived at the galaxy's edge on a Tuesday. They didn't send messages. They didn't make demands. They simply opened fire. The first wave of their attack destroyed 200 Council ships in minutes. Their weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Energy beams that punched through shields like they weren't even there. Missiles that appeared to teleport inside their targets. Defense systems that adapted faster than anyone could counter. Admiral Jiho watched his fleet crumble around him. Ships exploded into balls of fire. Escape pods scattered like seeds in the wind. He had fought in the War of 3 Suns and seen terrible things, but this was different. This was extermination. All ships, retreat. He ordered, fall back to the Rylo's belt. We need to regroup. What remained of the fleet ran. The Void Collective followed, methodical and patient, destroying everything in their path. Planets were stripped of resources. Space stations were reduced to atoms. Colonies evacuated in panic, cramming millions of refugees onto transports that weren't designed to carry so many. Admiral Minji commanded the evacuation efforts. Her ships worked around the clock, pulling people from doomed worlds and ferrying them deeper into the galaxy. Yuna worked beside her, analyzing the enemy weapons, trying to find a weakness. There's nothing, Yuna said, after days without sleep. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Maybe millennia. We can't fight them. We can barely slow them down. Minji looked at the tactical display. Red markers showed Void Collective positions. They were spreading through the galaxy like a disease, consuming everything. How long until they reached the core worlds? 6 months, Yuna said quietly. Maybe less. The Council met in emergency session on their fortress world, now packed with refugees from a dozen species. The representatives were desperate and afraid. We're going to die, someone said. All of us. The Valthene ambassador stood up. There must be something we can do. Some weapon, some strategy. There's nothing, Yuna reported. We're outmatched in every way. Technology, numbers, strategy. It's over. In the silence that followed, Admiral Minji spoke. There's Earth. Everyone turned to look at her. The Korvax representative's crystal body flickered with what might have been anger. Earth. They ignored our plea for peace. They watched us destroy ourselves. Why would they help now? Because the alternative is extinction, Mingi said. Ours and theirs. Whatever differences we have, we're all alive. The Void Collective doesn't care about politics or borders. They just want us dead. The debate lasted hours, but eventually they agreed. One final message was sent to the Sol system. This time, it wasn't an invitation or a plea for mediation. It was a warning and a desperate call for help. Unknown hostile force has entered the galaxy. 2,000 ships with superior technology. They've destroyed our defense fleet. Colonies are falling. Millions are dead. They're consuming everything in their path. They will reach your system eventually. Please, if you can hear this, if you have anything that can help, we need you. For 3 days there was no response. The galaxy held its breath. The Void Collective continued their advance, unstoppable and merciless. Then, on the 4th day, a message came from Earth. Just 3 words. We're already here. Nobody understood what it meant until the sensors picked up new contacts. Ships entering the Rylos belt from the opposite direction of the Void Collective. Not just a few ships, hundreds of them. Then thousands. Commander Taiyang stared at his screens in disbelief. That's impossible. Where did they come from? The human fleet materialized out of empty space like ghosts becoming real. Their ships were enormous, sleek, and covered in weapons that Earth shouldn't have been able to build. At the center of the formation was a vessel so large, it took several seconds for the sensors to fully register its size. A communication channel opened. The voice was calm and professional. This is Fleet Admiral Seojin of the Terran Defense Fleet to all Council forces. We're here to help. Transmitting tactical data now. Information flooded into Council systems. Battle plans, weapon specifications, coordination protocols. Everything organized and professional. Like Earth had been preparing for this exact scenario for centuries. Admiral Jiho received orders from a human tactical officer named Junho, who looked barely old enough to be in the military. At first, he felt insulted. But then he looked at the tactical plan Junho had created. It was brilliant. It used the Council's remaining ships in ways they had never considered, integrated them into the human formation seamlessly, and created overlapping fields of fire that would multiply their effectiveness. Human fleet. This is Admiral Jiho. We're following your lead. Just tell us what you need us to do. Seojin's voice came back. Protect the refugees. We'll handle the Void Collective. At the Rylos belt, the Void Collective encountered humanity for the first time. They had swept through Council forces easily. They expected the same here. They were wrong. Captain Arium commanded a human destroyer called the Soul's Fury. It was small compared to the Void Collective's massive ships, but it moved like lightning. When the enemy fired their devastating energy beams, the Soul's Fury simply wasn't there anymore. It slipped sideways through space in ways that shouldn't be possible. Arium's weapons were different too. They didn't just punch through shields, they ignored them completely, striking at the enemy hull as if the defensive barriers didn't exist. 6 Void Collective ships exploded before they understood what was happening. The enemy tried to adapt. They always adapted. But humanity adapted faster. Every time the Void Collective changed tactics, the human fleet was already 3 steps ahead, switching to new weapons, new formations, new strategies. The battle raged for 18 hours. For the first time since entering the galaxy, the Void Collective retreated in the Council chambers. Species that had once dismissed Earth as primitive and irrelevant watched in stunned silence as humanity's fleet pushed the invaders back. System by system, fighting with a precision and coordination that seemed almost supernatural. How? The Valthian ambassador whispered. How did they build all this? Yuna pulled up the data they had gathered on human ships. They've been building for 2,000 years. While we were playing politics and fighting wars, they were preparing. Every ship, every weapon, every strategy, they designed it all for this. Admiral Minji found herself working directly with Fleet Admiral Seojin, coordinating the joint defense. During a brief lull in the fighting, she asked the question everyone wanted answered. Why did you ignore us for 2,000 years? You could have stopped our war. You could have saved billions of lives. Seojin's face showed no emotion. We tried to help you. 2,000 years ago, we sent warnings. We explained what we saw in your political patterns. We offered solutions. You ignored us because we were new and unproven. You pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's defensive construction over the centuries. So we stopped trying to save you from yourselves and started preparing to save everyone from something worse. You knew this would happen? We knew something would happen, Seojin corrected. When civilizations weaken themselves through stupid wars, predators come to finish them off. It's happened throughout history. We just made sure we'd be ready when it happened to us. Fleet Admiral Seojin stood in the command center of the Terran Defiance, watching holographic displays that showed the entire battlefield across 3 star systems. Around him, younger officers called out status reports in calm, professional voices. Nobody panicked. Nobody screamed. They had trained for this their entire lives. The full human fleet had arrived. It was larger than anything the galaxy had ever assembled. 1,500 warships, each one bristling with weapons that bent the laws of physics. 300 carrier vessels that launched fighter wings faster than the enemy could track. 200 mobile fortress stations that moved through space despite being the size of moons. And 50 dreadnoughts, each one a city-sized weapons platform that could destroy an entire enemy fleet by itself. But the ships were only part of humanity's strength. The real advantage was how they fought. Enemy fleet approaching Sector 7, an officer reported. Deploy 3rd Battle Group, Seojin ordered. Pattern Delta 6. The human ships moved like a single organism. They didn't need constant communication or coordination. Every captain knew exactly what to do because they had practiced these maneuvers 10,000 times in simulations. Every scenario, every possibility, every enemy tactic had been studied and countered. The Void Collective learned this the hard way. Captain Ariam's destroyer led a strike formation of 20 ships. They were hunting a Void Collective battleship that had broken through the defensive line and was heading for a refugee convoy. The enemy ship was 3 times larger than all 20 human vessels combined. It didn't matter. All ships, execute pattern Bizon 7, Ariam commanded. Her formation split into 4 groups, approaching from different angles. The enemy fired its massive weapons, energy beams that could vaporize a planet. But the human ships danced around them, moving in 3 dimensions, plus 1 more that regular physics didn't quite account for. Ariam's weapons officer, a young woman named Suki, targeted the enemy ship's power core with a weapon that looked like it was punching through reality itself. The shot traveled through folded space and hit the battleship from the inside. The explosion lit up the darkness like a newborn star. The refugee convoy was saved. All across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. The Void Collective's superior technology meant nothing against enemies who fought smarter, faster, and with better coordination. Every human ship was connected to a tactical network that processed battle data faster than the speed of thought. On Earth itself, Director Suman sat in the Global Defense Center, surrounded by the most powerful computers humanity had ever built. She watched thousands of data streams simultaneously, processing information from every ship, every sensor, every battlefield. When she saw a weakness in the enemy formation, she transmitted new orders. When she detected an enemy ambush forming, she warned the affected fleet elements. She was 70 years old and had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. Every simulation, every war game, every theoretical battle had led to this. She was tired, but she wouldn't stop. Not until the job was done. Admiral Jiho followed orders from human officers, were sometimes young enough to be his grandchildren. At first, it had hurt his pride. He had commanded fleets for 50 years. He'd fought in the War of 3 Suns. But as he watched the battle unfold, he understood. A human tactical officer named Junho, who looked barely 20, was directing Jiho's entire squadron with perfect precision. Every move Junho ordered worked. Every strategy succeeded. The boy had a gift for reading the battlefield that took most officers decades to develop. Admiral Jiho, move your ships to coordinates Delta 59, Gunho said calmly. The enemy is about to try a flanking maneuver. You'll catch them off guard. Jiho gave the order. 3 minutes later, exactly as Junho predicted, a void collective force appeared at those coordinates. They ran straight into Jiho's guns and were destroyed before they could react. "How did you know?" Jiho asked. "Pattern recognition," Junho replied. "The enemy has tried this maneuver 17 times in the last 6 hours. They're predictable once you know what to look for." The young officer said it like it was obvious. Maybe to him it was. Admiral Mingi worked alongside Captain Arium, combining council ships with human vessels to create mixed battle groups. It was strange at first. The council forces had always fought in rigid formations following established protocols. Human forces were fluid, adaptive, constantly changing their approach based on what the enemy did. "Your weapons are incredible," Minji said to Arium during a brief pause in the fighting. "How did you develop technology this advanced?" Arium smiled. "We didn't invent most of it. We stole the concepts from you." "What? For 2,000 years, we've been intercepting your communications. Every scientific paper, every weapons test, every tactical discussion, we recorded it all. We learned from your successes and your mistakes. Then we spent centuries improving on your designs." Arium pulled up a holographic display showing a human weapon. "This is based on a Korvax energy beam design from 800 years ago. But we made it smaller, more efficient, and added our own improvements. The shield system comes from Threlin technology. The engines are based on Valthene designs." Mingi felt a strange mix of emotions. He was violated, impressed, and slightly amused. "So you've been spying on us this whole time." "Learning from you," Arium corrected. "There's a difference. We never stole your secrets to hurt you. We learned from you to survive what was coming." Yuna, analyzing the battle data from the Council's Science Center, made a discovery. The Void Collective ships all connected to a central command structure. They weren't independent vessels, they were more like fingers on a hand, controlled by a single brain. She sent the information to the human fleet immediately. Within hours, Earth's tactical division had developed a new strategy. "If we can destroy their command ship, the entire fleet will lose coordination," Engineer Minho explained to the assembled officers. He was a civilian volunteer, a genius with computers who had joined the war effort. "It won't destroy them, but it will make them vulnerable." Fleet Admiral Siajin studied the plan. "The command ship will be heavily defended. We'll need to break through their entire fleet to reach it." "I can do it," Captain Arium volunteered. "Give me 20 ships and I'll get through." "You'll need support," Admiral Jiho said. "My squadron will create a diversion. Draw their heavy ships away from the command vessel." Admiral Minji nodded. "Council forces will provide cover fire." "K, we can't match your technology, but we can keep them busy." The plan was set. 3 days. Later, the combined fleet launched the largest coordinated attack since humanity had arrived. It was beautiful and terrible to watch. Jiho's Valthene ships charged straight at the enemy's center, firing everything they had. The Void Collective took the bait, diverting their heavy battleships to counter the threat. Korvax and Threlin forces hit them from the flanks, opening gaps in their formation. Through those gaps, Captain Arium led her strike force. 20 human ships moving faster than the enemy sensors could track. They dodged weapons fire that could destroy planets, slipped through defensive barriers that should have been impenetrable, and penetrated straight to the heart of the Void Collective fleet. The command ship was there, a massive structure surrounded by hundreds of defenders. Arium didn't slow down. "All ships, target the command vessel. Fire everything." 20 human ships unleashed their full arsenal, weapons that bent space, missiles that existed in multiple dimensions, energy beams that ignored physical barriers. The combined firepower hit the command ship from every angle simultaneously. For a moment, nothing happened. The enemy vessel's shields held. Then Engineer Minho's virus, hidden in the weapons fire, penetrated their systems. The shields flickered, failed. Every human weapon struck the command ship's hull at once. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. Across the battlefield, all Void Collective ships suddenly stopped moving in coordination. They became confused, disorganized. They started firing randomly, sometimes hitting their own vessels. "Now," Siojin commanded, "all forces, full attack. Push them back." The combined human and council forces surged forward. Without their command structure, the Void Collective couldn't maintain their formations, couldn't adapt to new tactics, couldn't fight effectively. For the first time since they entered the galaxy, the invaders weren't just retreating, they were running. Captain Ariam's strike force limped back to friendly lines. Half her ships were damaged. 2 were completely destroyed. But they had succeeded. Admiral Jiho met her in the hangar of a human carrier vessel. The old Valthene warrior looked at the young human captain with respect. "You saved us all," he said simply. Ariam shook her head. "We all saved each other. It's the difference between us and them. They fight alone, we fight together." On the bridge of the Terran Defiance, Fleet Admiral Siajan allowed himself a small smile. The battle wasn't over yet. But for the first time, he believed they might actually win. Director Su-min, watching from Earth, felt the same hope. 2,000 years of preparation. 2,000 years of being ignored and dismissed. It had all led to this moment. Humanity hadn't just saved itself, it had saved the entire galaxy. And the galaxy was finally starting to understand what Earth had known all along. The strongest civilization wasn't the one that ruled, it was the one that prepared. The gateway structure floated at the edge of the galaxy like a wound in space itself. It was massive, icily, the size of a small moon, made of materials that human sensors couldn't fully identify. Energy poured from it in waves, distorting space and time around it. "That's how they're bringing in reinforcements," Yuna explained to the assembled military leaders. "It's a portal connecting our galaxy to wherever the Void Collective comes from. If we don't destroy it, they'll just keep sending more ships." Fleet Admiral Siajan studied the tactical display. The gateway was defended by what remained of the Void Collective's forces. Hundreds of ships, including their largest battleships. Getting close enough to destroy it would cost thousands of lives. "We don't have a choice," he said quietly. "If that gateway stays open, everything we fought for means nothing." Admiral Jiho, his uniform still scorched from the last battle, nodded. "The Valthene fleet will lead the assault. It's time we did our part," the Korvax and Threllan representatives agreed. For the first time in living memory, the 3 old enemies would fight together, not because they had to, but because they chose to. Admiral Mingi would coordinate the battle from the command ship. Working alongside human tactical officers, Captain Ariam would lead a strike team into the gateway structure itself to destroy it from the inside. It was a suicide mission. Everyone knew it. Volunteers came from every species. Valthene warriors who had fought in the War of 3 Suns, Korvax engineers, would survive the devastation of their homeworlds. Threllan soldiers who wanted to redeem their species' honor, and humans from every ship in the fleet. Captain Ariam stood before her strike team in the hangar bay. 50 beings from a dozen different species, all ready to die to save the galaxy. "I won't lie to you," she said. "Most of us probably won't come back. But what we're about to do will save trillions of lives. Every species, every planet, every child who deserves to grow up without fear, they're counting on us." Among the volunteers was Engineer Minho, the civilian who had discovered the command ship's weakness. He looked terrified, but determined. "Someone needs to manually overload the gateway's power core," he said. "I know how to do it." Ariam wanted to argue to tell him to stay behind, but she could see in his eyes that he had made his choice. The battle began at dawn, Earth time. Director Su-min watched from her command center, coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. Every available ship, human and council alike, would participate. This was everything. Win or lose, it ended here. The human dreadnoughts led the assault, their massive weapons tearing through space itself. Behind them came the council fleets, their ships smaller but no less determined. The Void Collective met them with everything they had. The battle was chaos. Ships exploded on all sides. Energy beams crisscrossed space like deadly lightning. Fighters swarmed like insects around the larger vessels. Through it all, the strike team's transport pushed forward, protected by a corridor of ships that gave their lives to keep it safe. Admiral Jiho's flagship took a direct hit that destroyed half its systems. He refused to retreat. "Keep firing," he roared. "The strike team is almost through." Young tactical officer Junho coordinated the defense with inhuman precision, but even he couldn't prevent all losses. Ships fell like leaves in a storm, for every Void Collective vessel destroyed. The galaxy lost 2 of its own. The transport carrying Captain Arium's strike team broke through the defensive line. Weapons fire had damaged its engines and hull, but it was still flying. Arium piloted it straight toward the gateway structure's docking port. Brace for impact. She shouted. The ship crashed through the gateway's outer hull, tearing a hole into its interior. Arium and her team spilled out into corridors that seemed to twist in directions that hurt to look at. The Void Collective had built this place, using physics that didn't quite match normal reality. Fighting broke out immediately. Void Collective defenders appeared from hidden passages. The strike team fought them room by room, corridor by corridor. Half the team was dead within the first 10 minutes. Arium led them deeper into the structure, following Minho's calculations toward the power core. The engineer stayed close, his hands shaking as he checked his instruments. "We're close," he said. 2 more levels down. Outside, the battle raged. Admiral Minji watched the casualty reports climb higher and higher. Hundreds of ships destroyed, thousands of lives lost. But the strike team was inside. They had a chance. "All ships maintain the perimeter," she ordered. "Don't let anything reach that gateway, no matter what it costs." The human carrier Soul's Pride took 3 direct hits, protecting a damaged Valthene cruiser. It exploded in a ball of fire, taking 200 crew members with it. The Valthene cruiser survived and kept fighting. A Korvax science vessel, armed with only basic weapons, rammed a Void Collective battleship to prevent it from firing on the strike team's transport. Both ships were destroyed instantly, all across the battlefield. Beings who had once been enemies died protecting each other. Inside the gateway, Arium's team reached the power core. It was a massive chamber filled with energy so intense it made their skin burn just being near it. Void Collective forces attacked from all sides, desperate to stop them. "Cover me," Minho shouted, running toward the control console. Arium and the remaining team members formed a defensive line. A Threllan soldier took a blast meant for Arium and fell without a sound. A Valthene warrior charged into the enemy ranks, buying them precious seconds. A human marine from Earth held a doorway alone against a dozen attackers until her ammunition ran out, then fought with her bare hands. Minho reached the console. His fingers flew over controls that weren't designed for human hands, adapting to alien technology through pure genius and desperation. "I need 2 minutes," he called out. "You've got it." Arium fired her weapon until it overheated, then grabbed a fallen enemy's gun and kept shooting. 1 minute passed. Then another. The team was down to 10 members. Then 5. Done. Minho shouted. "The core is overloading. We have 3 minutes to get out. Run." Arium ordered. They sprinted back through the corridors, pursued by Void Collective forces. The structure shook around them as the power core began to destabilize. Walls cracked. Energy arcs jumped through the air. They reached the transport. Only Arium, Minho, and 3 others had survived. Arium threw herself into the pilot's seat and fired the damaged engines. The ship lurched forward, just as the gateway's power core exploded behind them. The blast wave caught them, throwing the transport into a wild spin. Arium fought the controls, trying to guide them away from the growing explosion. Outside, every ship in the battle saw it. The gateway structure tore itself apart, releasing energy that lit up the darkness like a second sun. The explosion consumed the Void Collective's command vessel and dozens of their largest ships. "The gateway is destroyed," Yuno reported from the science division. "The portal is closed." Without the gateway bringing reinforcements and without their command structure, the remaining Void Collective forces lost all coordination. Some tried to fight on. Some attempted to flee. Most just stopped functioning altogether, as if whatever drove them had simply given up. The battle was over. The strike team's transport limped into a human carrier's hangar bay. Medics rushed forward as the hatch opened. Captain Arium stumbled out, barely conscious. Behind her came Minho and the 3 other survivors. Admiral Jiho was there, his his uniform torn and bloodied. When he saw them, the old warrior actually smiled. "You did it. You magnificent fools actually did it." The casualties were counted over the following days. 2,000 ships lost from all sides. Over 100,000 dead. Entire fleets reduced to fragments. But they had won. 5 years later, the Galactic Council convened in a new headquarters station. It was built jointly by humans and the Elder species, a symbol of their new partnership. The architecture blended styles from dozens of worlds, including Earth Ambassador Hannah, represented humanity officially for the first time. She sat at the council table as an equal, not as a petitioner or an outsider. Around her sat leaders of the galaxy's surviving civilizations. "We propose a new charter," Admiral Mingy said. She was older now, retired from active service, but still influential. "One that focuses on cooperation instead of competition. Preparation instead of politics. We call it the Tehran Accords." The charter was comprehensive. Shared technology, joint defense forces, early warning systems. Everything designed to make sure that if another threat emerged, the galaxy would be ready. But Hannah surprised everyone with Earth's response. "We'll sign the accords and help enforce them. But Earth won't take a leadership position. We don't want to rule. We don't want to dictate policy." "Why not?" Someone asked. "You saved us. You have the strongest military. You could demand anything." Hannah smiled. "Because we learned something 2,000 years ago. The strongest civilization isn't the one that rules, it's the one that endures. And you can't endure by standing alone. We'll be your partners, your advisors, your friends. But we won't be your masters." The Terran Accords were signed that day. Earth became an official member of the Galactic Council. But true to their word, humans served as advisors rather than leaders. They shared their technology freely. They trained Council forces in their tactics. They helped rebuild worlds that the war had destroyed.